Shall we start or?
Yeah, we could probably keep going.
Okay, just realized. Is there something we can do? Minutes? Did anyone have a chance to look over we had a number of.
Let's see. I took a quick glance at them today. Maybe we could go minute by minute and.
I looked at them all. I don't really have any comments. I think they're okay.
Yeah.
Same here.
So we had 5 sets of minutes going back to, I don't know, it was kind of funny. It was April 27th, June 15th, September 22nd, October 19th, and then the 7th of February 7th of 2023, which was a joint meeting with the FinCom. I think that was what we had. Anyone want to make a motion? Or?
I'll make a motion that we approve the February 7th, 2023, June 15th, 2022, September 22nd, 2022, October 19th, 2022, and April 27th, 2022 meeting minutes as printed.
I second it.
I heard Sam first, second. All in favor of the minutes as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
And I'll abstain because I have not had a chance to look at them.
Okay. Well, that's 1, 2, 3. Does that count then?
Ooh.
4.
But
it's a
under
quorum would be
5.
Oh, it's under a quorum.
Oh shoot.
Is
Let's wait till
Sam there?
Yes,
Yes.
Sam's here. Bartlett, we're waiting for Bartlett. We could wait for Bartlett.
How come I can't see Sam? Hi, Sam. I don't see you.
Oh, Sam.
Maybe if you unless he talks.
I can talk. Can you hear me?
Well, that's
I
fine.
can
Oh,
hear you.
there he goes.
Oh,
Look now.
Yeah.
Oh, now I can see.
Okay.
Now I think I see everybody now.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, unless we sit really close together. All right, so let's hold up on the minutes and we'll wait for Bartlett. So, well, no, that's understandable. They came out late. So we have the project eligibility applications. We may as well talk about those. Cemetery, Andrew.
So the cemetery, Linda, I posted a cemetery agenda for tonight because Carolyn and I make up a quorum with the board, but it didn't get posted. So I'll have to recuse myself. So then we won't have a quorum for this too. So we'll just have to wait for Bartlett before we do this one as well.
Okay.
Okay, let's hold up on that. Okay, so the Houghton building, oh, Lily, you won't be able to see this.
Okay.
Can we take pictures and text them to us?
Oh, yeah, does that work?
Oh, yeah, we can do that.
Can I text you a picture?
Yes.
Or email, I can email you a picture.
So I wonder what would happen if you hook up the HDMI cable that's on the screen in back of you to your computer. It would show on that screen.
I know, but I just have a handwritten copy.
Oh, never mind.
Oh,
We're doing old school.
I know.
Yeah, we are.
It's my old school.
Old school, future school. Yeah.
So while I'm doing this, I will talk. So I do apologize, and I was saying before the meeting started that it's understandable if we want to hold off on this. So this is for the Houghton Memorial Building windows, which are they need restoration work. They need painting and reglazing of the panes. Some of the wood is down to bare wood on the outside, although the wood is not yet damaged, which is good. Okay, all right, Lindsay, you should get that in a second. Oh, I made copies for those of us who are here.
Thank you.
So this is just to see if it's okay to bring this back to the next meeting with the for the application for the funding. So right now they're in need of painting and reglazing. You know, the kind of the front line of protection for the building, and then of course for the artifacts that we have inside. There are a lot of windows, you don't realize it, but there are 21 arched windows. 11 of them have, I think there's 25 panes of glass on each window. So it's very time and labor intensive. And because of that, we anticipate the project to exceed probably $30,000. We have one quote and are waiting on 2 more. And the quote that we received was for $44,000 for the entire project, which will include the front door. And they have decreased that by $10,000, so it's $34,000. But like I said, we're waiting for a couple of other quotes. There is precedent. I looked through the CPCA data bank, and they have had projects like this before where it's a window rehab. So I don't know if there's questions, I can answer them, and just kind of looking for a go ahead to kind of complete the application.
So is it for all 21 windows?
We would like to, maybe, we'll see what
11.
well, we'd like to do all of the windows. So we're getting a quote for everything now, whether we end up doing it in phases. Because we had one guy come out and look, and he would actually take the windows out and take them back to his workshop and do them.
Mhm.
So then we can do them during the winter. The other guy was going to do it, you know, in situ. So you have to, if it's raining, they can't do them. But we would like to do all of the windows, and then there's the little clear story windows, but those are easy. They're only about, you know, this big.
So there are no storm windows on the building.
No storm windows. Well, no, I take that back. We have interior storms.
Okay.
And those we just put in a few
These are
years
the-
ago.
Against the weather. The windows
Against
on
the weather, yeah.
Okay. Yes, at the church, they took the windows out and
Yes,
took them to Western Mass or something, but yeah.
yeah, which would make more sense because of the, you know, to be, you know, doing this with all those little panes of glass, and some of it's the old glass, so we don't want them to break it if they can help it. So I think it's safer to have it, you know, down flat on a workbench. So we were kind of pleased with that, but we haven't gotten a quote for him either.
But you say the wood is still in usable condition. There's no wood.
Yes, the guy that just came and looked, he said,
Okay.
we're doing this just at the right time. So we were glad we didn't have to do any sill work. And we will probably also include, like, say, the front door and the window wells, but the Historical Society would put in a percentage of the overall project. We definitely will share on the cost.
So, and the price per window seems comparable to what has been paid in other projects.
I'll have to see, because I have to look at what the other buildings were, because if it's just a plain sheet of glass, to reglaze, you're just going, and it might not even be arches if they're squares. So these with all the little panes,
Yeah.
I don't know what the exponential cost would be, but I'd definitely come with some of that information at the next.
Okay.
next
Yeah,
meeting.
because it seems like it would be a little over $1,000 per window, so.
Yeah, when you think, yeah, there's a lot of.
So I have a question about the timing. So you're not submitting the funding application tonight? Is the warrant supposed to close for town meeting March 1st?
No, it's the middle of March, I think.
Okay.
So I think it would be after I think we decided it's after our next meeting.
Yeah, because we planned this out. I'm just a
Yeah,
little fuzzy on the details.
I think we will have one more meeting before the warrant closes.
All right, I guess just make sure that's true if you want to get
Yeah.
on the warrant.
Right. Or we could have a placeholder. I remember talking about that now that I say that. And I'll have some photos too for. And what did you ask me?
Oh, whether or not this is a comparable cost on a per window basis to what other projects have paid.
Cost to other projects. I can include all this in the, any other things I should include or any doubts about the project or?
No, it would be great to be able to get them restored.
And we will have to go to the select board to ask permission. They usually say fine if, you know, if we want to protect the building. So I'm not too worried about that, but we have to do that. All right. No other questions? A motion for the. Oh, yeah, I should. Oh. Can I vote on this project? I really shouldn't, should I?
We're probably not. I'll make a motion that
Well, we still only have four.
We don't have enough.
We don't have a quorum.
we don't have enough. Don't we have 7 members?
9 members.
Oh, we have 9 members? Jeez. Okay, never mind. So we can't vote on it.
Not till Bartlett comes.
Oh, wow, half the agenda's on hold.
Okay, what else could we?
Okay, so we're 3 for 3 so far.
Let's try 4.
Let me get this on. I don't really want to start talking about the 1%, but. Oh, we have to vote on the surcharge.
Oh, yes.
We could do that because I think we usually typically do about the same. So what I'd like to do is ask Alicia to separate it this time. You know, we just had that weird confusion where I guess the estimate that we voted on was the 1% plus the state match all put into one pot, which I don't believe we've ever done before. And we always kept them separate. So I was going to ask Alicia if when on the warrant we could separate that somehow, because last year we decided when the state match allocation came up to do that a little differently than we did the 1%.
Yeah. It was like a separate allocation. I think
Right.
we had different percentages for a couple of years in a row.
Yeah. So what we do need tonight to do is to vote the percentages in for the 1% surcharge, which historically we've been doing about the same. I think Dennis brought up the email.
So,
Right, sometimes we changed
Oh, thank you.
5% between one pot and another, but that's about it.
Right.
If we felt one pot needed more than was in more need than another.
Right. And typically we've been giving most of it to open space because the projects are.
And we greatly appreciate it.
And we still have the debt service for the 3 properties that come off the top for open space. And then there's still the one for the Houghton building that comes off the top of the historic category. So I think last time we did 40% open space, 20% for community housing, 20% for recreation. Historic takes the cut on the chin, they get 18%, and then we put 2% into admin.
Okay.
I don't know. Linda, are you all right as historic?
Yes,
person?
yes, I'm okay with that.
So I didn't hear from any other members about any concerns or anything about it.
And we need to put admin in every year. Should we keep an eye on what's in there on occasion? I mean, are there going to be years that when it might not need redoing?
We don't really use it, but I think at the end of the year, it gets folded into the undesignated balance. I think that's a 1 year, but I'm not sure we've ever really figured out what to use it for. Although we use it for the coalition.
the coalition
dues,
fees,
Which
yeah.
I think we're up to, oh no, we're still 1% now, but if we were to jump up to 3%, it would be like 2,800, I think, is a year.
Could it be used to pay to have someone do minutes or anything like that?
Yes, that was one thing, and now that we're being recorded,
Mhm.
I'll have to ask Diane again, because I don't know if they didn't seem like they had anyone who would come to your meeting and be described like they used to. But now that we're being recorded, I think they have some senior work off people, so that would be kind of nice not to have to do the minutes ourselves.
That'd be great.
But we could pay it out of the admin fund, which would work. So we have any other discussion?
The only other thing that I can think of is when CPC has different projects that it's advocating for, are there ever any kind of education materials that are like used as handouts at either town meeting or distributed in another way that those admin fees can go toward?
I don't think we've ever done anything like that. But
The community hasn't, typically, if a nonprofit is promoting a project, they'll come up with materials, but that's not a bad idea to,
Keep that in mind, yeah.
yeah.
We need to add some visuals to a presentation or something.
And I don't know if we'd have to have a public hearing if we're going to do the 3%, you know, I would think that might be something we might have to, and have some materials
That's
done,
what I was thinking,
definitely,
yeah.
or a mailer and, so I don't know if 2% is what, how many dollars?
$9,332.
So that would cover.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would cover. Color copies are about $2 a piece if you wanted color. I only know because all the copies I have to do.
All right. Is there any other discussion? I think I can't imagine that anyone else would be opposed to that. And like I say, no one submitted any suggestions, so, or any concerns we want to vote on.
Sure. So
Well,
I'll make a
do we need a quorum to vote?
Yes, but I think we can all vote on this one,
Yeah, there's no exclusions.
because there's 5 of us here. But there's no one that has
Got
to
it. Yes.
recuse themselves.
Yes, I got it.
Yeah. So Andrew made a motion.
So I'll make a motion that for this year's 1% surcharge, we divide up our CPA budget as follows. Let's see, 2% for administrative, 40% for open space, 18% for historic preservation, 20% for community housing, and 20% for recreation.
Second.
And a second. All in favor of the motion as Andy Rush, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Phew. Okay, great. We'll submit that to Alicia. For the state match, should we vote on that now? Yeah, because it seems like she wants to estimate it. And I think last time we put some into undesignated.
We did. Let's see if I can find that.
Yeah, I think we had a discussion about undesignated, and thought it might be more flexible for some funds to be put into there. Was that right?
I believe so. And I think we decided since the state match was extra money, we could kind of take it out of. Let's see, that'll be in last year's. That's all right. I think we still kind of did basically the same. Town meeting. So that would have been annual town. Oops. Actually, it was the special town meeting, wasn't it? That we voted. We usually vote in the. All right. So we are. For articles. Yeah, so last year we voted 30% for open space, 15 for historic resources, 15 for housing, 15 for recreation, and 25% into undesignated. So that really built up that undesignated piece.
Does that get used a lot?
Not really. I feel like the last couple of times that we've used undesignated, it's been for an open space project that wasn't open space. It was more recreational. So we took the money out of that, like a parking lot for Oak Hill. And then our Finney Trail projects that we've done, because technically you can't use open space money for that. It's a recreational project, but we didn't want to take money out of recreations bucket to do it. So I think other than that, I don't know if we've really used it.
I think that sometimes with an open space project, they've done some open space and then some undesignated just to make, give it a little bit more. I don't know if it was the Williams land that we
Oh, yeah, so a portion of that was.
I think a portion of that was open space and undesignated. So yes, it's there, but it's flexible. That's the nice thing about it, is it can be used for any of the categories. And it had been kind of dwindling. So it's at the balance, approximate balance for fiscal year 23 would be $258,000 in undesignated, which is
It's a good
pretty
job.
good chunk right now. So I mean, we could pull back a little bit if we wanted and pad the other buckets instead.
And it was 25% last. fiscal year?
25%, yeah.
I could go either way, because it is a pretty high amount in there already now. We could do the other buckets. I could go either way.
Maybe we could give housing, historical, and recreation another 2.5% each. And...
Let's not do that.
Okay.
That messes up all the charts. So if we gave like 3,
3%.
so it'd be 18, 18, 18, and then 16% to
Undesignated.
undesignated.
That works.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. 18, is that right? 18, 18, 30. Yes. All right, there's no more discussion. We entertain a motion.
I'll make a
Okay.
motion that we allocate the state match for the upcoming fiscal year as follows: 30% to open space, 18% to recreation, 18% to historical, 18% to community housing, and 16% undesignated.
I second it.
All in favor of the motion stated by Andrew, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agreement. All right, now we're stuck, I think.
Do we know he's coming?
He said he would, yes. Oh, Solomon is on.
Oh,
Do I have to unmute him? No.
Good evening.
Hi, Solomon. We're gonna log you in because we're having some issues here with quorums. There were just 5 of us, but everybody needs to recuse themselves from something and we weren't able to vote. We're also waiting for Bartlett, who I think probably figured he'd be here by now. He was probably home because I think PMBC's a Zoom meeting, so,
Oh,
And he might not come.
yeah, that might be what he would do. I should have mentioned that to him.
Not too late, you want me to text him?
Yeah, if you, oh, yes, just to get an ETA. Or tell them that what's online if you would rather.
thought I saw some brake lights.
Yeah. Solomon, did you by chance get to read the minutes? They came out kind of late, so.
I will take a quick look at them. But
Okay, that's all right. We just,
We already voted. We do, but while we're waiting for Bartlett,
yes. I know there's, I mean, the big thing is the, well, let's start talking about the 1%. So I made a couple of tweaks. I didn't send it out again because I thought maybe after this meeting, Linda submitted some, just a few changes like to the, when we're talking about what CPA means to Littleton Historic Resources, I added in 12 Robinson Road. And I took out the housing inventory just because the slide, I don't want it to be too cluttered.
and did you take out tunnel?
And I took out the title for like an upcoming project, you know, what can CP do? Because that's not really anywhere yet. So just to kind of leave that off. So that was fine. I just deleted that. Bartlett had asked me on the housing, community housing, to add the rental assistance programs that they did.
Oh, Bartlett's on now.
Oh,
Hi, Bartlett.
Bartlett's here now.
right. I was just kind of we've got installed on a few things, Bartlett, because we didn't have we had a quorum, but we kept having people have to abstain. So we have a few things to go back to. And so why don't we, now that we're kind of a full board here, we did go ahead with the 1% surcharge and the state match and vote in the percentages. If there's something that you want to change, we can.
No, I'm happy with the percentages.
Okay, yeah, we did the same that we did last year, except on the state match, we bumped up historic, housing and recreation from 15 up to 18%. And we took off 9% from the undesignated and put in 16% there. So we're padding the other buckets a little bit more than we did.
Great.
And left open space at 30%. And the 1% surcharge, we did what we've normally done is 40% for open space, 20 goes into housing and recreation, 18 to historic, and 2% to the admin. So if you don't have any problems in Solomon, this is for you as well. If there's no issues with those, we can just leave the votes as is. If not, we can revisit.
no, sounds good.
Bartlett, did you have a chance to look over the minutes by chance?
I did. I wasn't at some of the meetings, but I didn't have any problems with the minutes.
Okay, so we didn't have enough. We had one abstention, so we need to vote the minutes in. So we had a motion from Andrew to accept all 5 copies of the minutes as submitted. Sam seconded it, And we had no vote, so I will call for a vote now. All in favor of the motion as read, please say aye.
I,
All right.
Okay. So that's 6-0 to 1. Great, thank you. Well, that's good. Get those done. Oh, I'll do my speech about the Houghton building again, right? Because so we have that, and I'll have to email this to you guys as well. So I submitted I brought a handwritten application, eligibility application for the Houghton building windows, which are in desperate need of painting and reglazing. They need some rehab work. So we have not yet received, we've received one quote for $44,000. Now you have to remember that it's all the windows, and that includes 21 arched windows, 11 of them which have 25 little panes, the muntins. So it's a labor intensive project. The Historical Society will kick in some money depending on, how much the project ends up being. Okay, I just emailed that. So basically the eligibility request was the windows in the 1895 Houghton Memorial Building are in need of painting and reglazing. The beautiful arched windows are the front line of protection to the building and the collection held within. There are 21 arched windows, 11 of them have panes with muntins that will be very time and labor intensive. Because of this, we anticipate the project to exceed $30,000. There is precedent for this type of window restoration within the CPA. And we were just looking for the okay to bring a funding application to the next meeting. Flush out some more, like I say, hopefully we'll have a real quote by that time. Anna had asked for some comparable to make sure that's a comparable cost, like look at some of the precedent applications and projects that have been completed and make sure it makes sense. But this would take care of all the windows, all the arched windows, all the clear story windows, the front door, and some of the window wells also, but we probably would pay for that with our contribution to the project.
You didn't mention the drop in estimates.
Oh yes, the one quote that we got was 44,000, and then they came back a couple weeks later and dropped it to 34,000. So we're not quite sure if they recalculated, or because we hadn't gotten back to them, they dropped the price. I'm not sure why it was. They didn't give us an explanation, but I'm hoping that the other quotes are similar to that. But we'll see. It may be something we have to do in 2 phases also.
I think Carolyn, you'd mentioned that the Historical Society is going to be kicking in some money of its own too.
Yeah, we usually do it, a percentage of the project, and we definitely will do for this as well. Bartlett or Solomon, if you have any other questions or concerns, and as I said to these guys, if it's something that it is rushed because, well, it is kind of rushed in, but.
no, I'm okay.
Yeah, no major concern. I guess the only question I'd have is there an ongoing maintenance plan or a budget for maintenance, or is all the maintenance going to come through CPA funding, or how are we handling that?
Yeah, so the lease, the building is owned by the town, and the Historical Society leases it. Part of our lease is that ongoing maintenance is our responsibility, but the structure is the town's responsibility. So this is one of those that I think we kind of share, you know, it's part of the structure, but, you know, we've done a lot of maintenance on the inside. We took on the basement project. We just had the entire basement waterproofed. We had the HVAC system put in. So we've done a lot of maintenance. So this is one thing that, you know, we've been putting off because we've had these other projects that we've had to do, and it's now time to work on this. But this is like the last big thing. We've got a new roof, we've been painted, we've got the basement done, we've got humidity control, and now it's time for the windows.
These are all original windows, and didn't we put storms on some of them a while ago?
Yeah, we have interior storms, and that
Okay.
that was partially funded through CPA as well. Yeah, we have interiors.
Is the painting all outside?
Inside and out.
Inside and out.
And mostly on the outside for the real painting, because the interior was done when we just had, it was during the pandemic, we had the interior painted. It's the reglazing of the panes. And a lot of the muntins are down to bare wood, and, you know, the putty's starting to pop off. So that's really the labor intensive portion.
That's hard to do. I've tried to do it.
Yeah, it's one of those things I guess you can learn, but my gosh, we'll be there for the rest of our lives if we try to do it.
Truly become part of a
Yeah,
historical society.
that's right. Sitting there, 100 years old, scraping paint. So I'm going to recuse myself from this vote. I guess I'll abstain because I'm intimately involved with the society.
So I'll make a motion that the committee deem the Houghton Memorial Building window project as eligible for CPA funding.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor of the motion as said by Andrew, please say aye.
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 Opposed? And I will abstain. Okay, and then we had a similar issue with the cemetery submitting their funding request, but Andrew and I make a quorum, so we didn't get our cemetery meeting posted.
Yeah, so unfortunately I will have to recuse myself from this part of the meeting. I'll run out in the hallway and answer a few emails where you guys are discussing this particular project, because if Carolyn and I deliberate about cemetery business, it's a open meeting law violation. So I will run out and I will come back when you're all are done.
Yeah. And this got passed out to everyone.
Yes.
Excellent. So we have both the eligibility. Actually, this is a joint with the Historical Commission and the cemetery. Linda, do you want to speak to it, or?
Yes, so I was assuming that Andrew would, but
Yeah,
that's okay. That's okay. I helped him with this, so that's fine. So as in past phases, we're looking to conduct the next phase. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, one sec. Sometimes my internet goes bad, so I open the door. That should help. Let me know if you can't hear me at some point. So as with we've done with past phases of work at the old burying ground and now more recently at the West Lawn Cemetery, we're looking for the next phase to do some conservation and restoration preservation work on gravestones and monuments at West Lawn Cemetery. The consultant we hired in the past came up with a large number previously. I forget what it was, 250 or something that needed restoration. And so far we've done, 20 at a time in 2 phases or something like that. So this would be the 3rd phase. So it would be another 12 to 20 around there for additional gravestone restoration. The cost would be $9,950. And it would be for the old, work on 18th and 19th century gravestones and monuments. The professional experts identified 247 gravestones and monuments that were in need of repair or preservation. And so that's the eligibility request. So I guess I'll leave it at that. And then I guess also the funding request is being submitted tonight as well. So first we'll vote on eligibility.
We'll make a motion. We've done these before,
Yeah.
so that we know it's eligible. I think we deem them eligible.
So I move that we accept the eligibility request for West Lawn Cemetery gravestone monument preservation in the amount of $9,950.
I'll second it.
Okay, moved and seconded by Anna and Bartlett to accept the eligibility request. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. One recused. Okay. And then the funding request?
Okay, so, basically the same background information. The timeline, this would be the 3rd phase of restoration. The timeline would probably be early July of 2023, conclude in late November, early December. Again, the budget is 9,950. It would cover approximately 17 to 20 additional gravestones or monuments. The project has the support of the Littleton Historical Commission, Cemetery Commission, and Historical Society. And I guess that's about it. That's in the funding request, funding application.
Are there any questions for Linda? Not to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the funding request for the cemetery restoration as pronounced by Linda.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to accept the funding request for annual town meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And one recused. Great, so we will send that project off to Ryan, I guess it is, to put on the warrant.
So Carolyn, a reminder that we also have the 12.
Oh, yes.
Which would come under this item as any others that may come before the committee.
Right, we had.
Hey, everybody.
Hello. So Linda just reminded me that we also had the funding request for the 12 Robinson Road consultant.
So as you remember, as you recall at our last meeting, the CPC voted that the project was eligible. Tonight would be a vote on the funding application. To hire for the Littleton Historical Commission to hire a historic preservation consultant to ensure compliance with the required historic preservation restriction for the historic house and barn at 12 Robinson Road. A historic preservation restriction is required by law in perpetuity, that's forever, for the historic house and barn at 12 Robinson Road because it was purchased by the town with community preservation funds. And the Littleton Historical Commission is included in the historic preservation restriction as the grantee of the restriction. What that means is that the Historical Commission is charged legally with monitoring and enforcing the restriction to ensure that its requirements for historic preservation are being met by all property owners going forward. That would be private property owners once the town sells it to a private property owner. The town is poised to sell the property soon. And the Historical Commission has been in discussions with the potential owner. We understand that the rehabilitation and preservation and renovation will be extensive. Because this will be the first time that the Littleton Historical Commission will serve in the role as grantee of a historic preservation restriction, and because of the significant rehabilitation plan, the commission is seeking to hire an expert professional historic preservation consultant with experience in historic preservation restrictions to assist the commission in evaluating design plans and subsequent ongoing historic rehabilitation and construction work that will be performed by the new owner to ensure that these activities comply with the historic preservation restrictions. We've discussed the project with organizations such as Historic New England and with the Mass Historical Commission. They both agreed that the Historical Commission should obtain appropriate professional expertise to guide us through the process. We identified 3 consultants and we interviewed one. Everyone on the Historical Commission really liked her. We were very impressed with her knowledge and her experience, and we decided that we would like to hire her. Attached to this application is her cost estimate. She would help us review design documents. She would come for a pre-construction meeting, conduct quite a few on-site visits during the rehabilitation construction process, and there would be ongoing communication with her, with the Historical Commission. We anticipate the project will be about 6 months. That's what this amount she would sign on for. The cost estimate is a total of $9,201. The potential buyer has offered to contribute $5,000. So we're asking from the community preservation funds, we're asking $4,201 to cover the remaining cost of hiring this consultant. This project does meet the goals of the community preservation plan. The goals to preserve Littleton's historic resources and structures and preserve the small town feel. It would be about a 6-month project. We think it would begin this spring, hopefully, and conclude in the fall. And yeah. Oh, and we believe we have discussed this with the select board. We believe they support the project, but we did not have time to get a letter of support from them based on deadlines for this meeting. The Historical Society also supports this project. And certainly a number of town residents have contacted the Historical Commission. They want to make sure this building is preserved. And that's it.
Okay.
Questions from anyone?
Linda, I'm in favor of this. I'm curious about, you said that there were 3 consultants identified, and I'm wondering why you spoke to only one.
She was the first one that we interviewed, and everyone on the commission thought she had such great experience and met exactly the needs we wanted, that they wanted to hire her. So, okay. And her cost estimate, she actually ended up reducing her cost estimate to us. So that made it even more advantageous.
Okay.
Oh, and one of them, yeah, one of the other ones I remember now, she isn't available right now for us to interview her. She lives in the winter in California and in the summer here. So it really wasn't,
Right.
yeah.
All right. And this one is local, the one that you like?
She's in Rhode Island.
Okay. That's closer than California.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do we have this application?
Did I forward this application out?
Oh, I
Linda sent, you sent
Heard
it?
it before, but
I sent it to you, Carolyn. I thought you sent it out. Actually, I'm pretty sure you sent it out.
I sent so much to you guys this week that,
Yeah.
I'll look at my email, but I'm almost sure I saw that you did send it out.
I hope I didn't just like reply to you.
Hmm.
I feel like I saw it, but maybe not.
Well, you might have.
Well, I've already seen it.
You might have seen it.
The historical commission, but
Maybe if you can forward it to all of us right now, then we'll have
Yeah.
it at least electronically.
You want to do that, Carolyn, or me?
Yeah, I'm trying to log in right now.
Because I have the one from Alicia.
All right.
And then the PowerPoint, and then Saul's input. And then the minutes. So those are the last 4 emails from Carolyn, so.
All right, let's see.
Oh, you know what? I don't think I did it.
You know what? You just responded to me, maybe.
Stupid. Okay. I'll send it out right now.
I don't know. I really thought you did. Let me look a little further, but sounds like
I
people
don't
didn't receive it.
I don't think so, because it doesn't have a little arrow, it usually will show a little arrow. You and I
there we go.
talked about it, but maybe I never,
There it is, thank you.
I'm sorry.
That's
Sent that
okay.
Last Friday.
The beauty of electronics,
Yeah.
Yes.
when it works, that is.
Well, it's nice too that we've seen that there's not much updating from the eligibility request, correct?
Well, everyone should take, no, it's the same thing, but you should, I basically just, what I just said covers what's in the funding request, but you should take a minute to look at it.
Linda, is the transaction completed for this property?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
So this would not take effect unless and until the transaction is completed.
Okay, thank you. It almost seems like no matter what happens, at some point this work will need to take place.
Correct.
Is this still anticipated to be sold to Cataldo?
Yes, that's what's expected.
Yeah, there was no change in the amount, was there, from the eligibility? Because you already knew at that time how much it was going to be. Yeah.
Yes, it's the same amounts as the eligibility from last meeting.
Well,
It's ready to get cold.
Cold.
Yeah, it's a little chillier now.
It is, yeah.
Everybody second.
All righty, thank you for sending that.
All right. Any questions? Anyone ready to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that the CPC approve the funding application for the 12 Robinson Road Historic Preservation Consultant Project.
I will second that.
Okay, moved and seconded by Andrew and Bartlett. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Now, thank you for all your work on that, Linda.
Yeah.
Thank you, Linda.
Yeah.
And then the other funding, not funding, but you had submitted an eligibility request last time for the townhouse
Yes.
consultant.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. We are withdrawing that. It is not ready. It's premature. And not only is it premature because the town doesn't own it yet, but the Historical Commission at our last meeting voted that we would, if and when the time comes that it is appropriate to hire a consultant for the Tuttle House, then we would do it out of our budget. It's only $680 or something. So we voted we'd do it out of our budget. That would provide us more flexibility for timing as well. So, yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. All right, thank you. All right, thanks everyone for your patience on those items. So now we're just talking about the percent increase in the surcharge. We're on the select board agenda for Monday. I don't know what time. I looked and I didn't see it yet. It must be, it's got to be posted now. It wasn't last night, but Andrew's looking it up.
So we're on for, oh, no, actually it's not posted yet.
Okay, not posted. This is only Wednesday, so I would just, you know, if I think of it, I'll send everybody out what time it is. I posted a meeting set for ourselves, so anyone who wants to come is welcome to join. It's also broadcast on LCTV, but not interactive. It's just broadcast. While we were waiting for quorum, we talked about some of the changes. I will make a couple more changes to the PowerPoint and send that back out for further comments. Bartlett, I got yours on the correction on the rental assistant program. I put that in the community housing slide of what CPA is meant to Littleton.
Great, thank you.
And Linda, I mentioned that you had some as well. And then I think, oh, so the blended funds, I should have, see if I'm not using my computer, I can't project this, but we had a slide on the blended funds, and what I had done was put it by year and like where they came from. And as Linda mentioned, it was kind of messy anyways. And as Linda said, it kind of looks like there's a lot of blended funds coming in. So I've just totaled them by the fiscal year that they've come in. And we got them in fiscal year 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And then there's a big break until fiscal year 23. So we can see that there's this gap, which is, I think, after Keith left, that we didn't collect any. And actually fiscal year 29 was only $42,000. So it wasn't a lot. Fiscal year 23, we got 3 developers or 3 development projects for $437,000. And then this year we'll get the $200,000 from the 242 King Street. So hopefully by seeing this, we can show how blended funds just haven't been collected. They're just not consistent. We haven't been good about going out and getting them. So, and that seems to be, there's only a few communities that have actually used the blended funds. I think there are only 5 that are blended fund communities, and only 3 of us have ever used it. I wish Brian were here, because he had, he mentioned that I think the finance committee would like to revisit the blended funds and try to pull those in rather than go for an increase at this time. I don't think he was speaking for it, but I think that was his general feeling.
Right. Well, I would certainly like to keep blended funds as a possibility. I think that with the continuing housing developments, there's likely to be cash payments that would be perfect to roll through community preservation for the boost. I mean, it is irregular, but I don't see any reason to not have it. Just because we can expect that at some point there's going to be more money coming in.
I think the challenge though is that if we leave whatever it is, whether it's 0.5% or percent or something for available to be used for blended funds, and then they don't appear, then we're not at the 3%. We don't get the extra matches.
No, the match is based on the total that's gone into the community preservation. If we're at the 3%, we get a higher percentage match. But if there's any blended funds going in, we get a match on that at the lower rate, at the 1% rate.
Yeah, no, sure. We get a match on them, but in terms of we don't get the match on we don't get the second and third round
right
funding matches if we're not hitting 3%. So it's either, I mean, if we want to get those, which I think is desirable, it's more efficient use of our money to me. We either need to figure out a way, either collect the 3% or figure out a way that we will match or add that, whatever the gap is, whether it's 0.5% or a whole percent in the blended fund so that we're hitting the 3% on a regular basis. And I don't know if that's possible with the budgeting process.
Yeah, I don't think FinCom will buy that they'll have to make up, as much as 2% of the total tax revenue and give it to us. I don't think they'll do that.
So, if I can interject my perspective on this, having coming from the planning board and also seeing where people often point to the fact that open space has been purchased with these dollars, and that's very much valued by the town. And so I ask, well, if it's that valued by the town, don't we want to be able to have funds available to be able to acquire the properties when they come up? And in particular, saving the Great Road Corridor, if you will, the farming areas that are still remaining. I think that this town is probably going to have some decisions coming up in a couple of, at least within the next decade, probably, where existing farm properties might have to have a major decision made. And so when is that going to happen? When is that going to happen? Who knows? But I don't know that the town is necessarily prepared for that. If CPC dollars could continue to accumulate for that eventuality, at least then the town would have some amount for a down payment or some amount to be able to participate in those discussions in a meaningful way. So that's why I recognize that the 3% might be a stretch for folks, but I also want to ask, so what's the trade-off? Because if the trade-off is that the town doesn't have really any sort of savings accumulated to be able to deal with the eventual decisions that need to be made on important parcels in town, then we're going to be in a tough spot in the future. So that's my input on this.
It's a very good point.
Well, I completely agree that 3% is a lot more money than 1%. But I just don't see that there's any point in cutting off a source of that. Blended funds is an irregular source, but it is a source of funds. And it doesn't preclude us getting to the 3%. I mean,
if we were collecting a 3% surcharge and
then
there was money available from a developer or from some other project, what would that just go to? It wouldn't get the match. Is that the?
No, I mean, if I suppose, I mean, we're limited to 3%. So I suppose if the town agrees to pay the 3% surcharge, and in some year there's some money, then the town could either give us less. I mean, in some way, one form or another, that money would flow to the town. Whether it goes through us and the selectmen vote less for us, or we just, it just passes through the town. It goes directly to the town.
Yeah, because if we were 3%, we couldn't accept any additional.
Right.
We'd have to figure out what the percentage is, roll it back, accept the blended funds. And I'm not sure if once we become a 3%, whether we're still technically blended fund community. I don't know how that works.
Well, I would actually say that if the developments work out the way that that are planned right now with King Street Common, that's going to bring in a lot of residents, right? Residents dwelling units, as they're called. If the train station happens, there's some more opportunity for additional dwelling units. I think Littleton will be at a good place then in terms of housing that it needs, right? And so from that perspective, if there are any other developers that come in, they're going to be much smaller. And again, where are they going to go? Because our town has basically said, these are the places where we want the building of our houses. I mean, there might be a little development of 10 homes or something like that. And in that case, we would get one affordable unit out of that or a fee in lieu of. But, I just don't really see that there's going to be another case where we're going to get major developers coming in and contributing large amounts as we've seen in the past 5 years. Or that developments are created, but they don't want to build, and so they get the fee in lieu of. So that's my perspective on that.
Just a quick question. Is 3% the maximum you can combine with surcharge and blended funds?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
you can't go. I'm wondering, I know I brought this up at the last meeting, but maybe we could do a 2% jump and leave that buffer just in case we did get mitigation funds or other revenues coming in through blended. So we'd still have that pocket available. If, say, a developer came in, was going to offer X amount, we'd be able to take that to make up for that missing 1%. At the same time, we wouldn't be hitting the taxpayers as hard immediately, but doubling our current revenues. Something to think about, but I know the appeal of 3 times the money is always going to be greater, especially with the demand for preserving land and other large projects that come up. It's just if we're not going to get the buy-in from the finance committee or the select board, maybe a 2% leap for now would be enough to help us with some of these projects.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, to me, the thing that the draw of the 3% is it makes us eligible for the second and third rounds of funding.
Correct.
Matches that make our investment in these funds much more effective.
No, I totally agree with that.
And if we could figure out if we can get a commitment from the select board and the finance committee that that they're willing to commit 0.5% or 1% to if the developers or other sources don't come through, then maybe that makes sense. But I think we're, we'd almost be better off doing, 3% in a year and get the full match, and then whatever the minimum, 1% is the minimum in another year. I think maybe that's, we talked earlier about AIR doing that, kind of bouncing around on their funding. But, in trying to hit that 3% when we can to get the additional matches. And it just doesn't sound like the outside sources are reliable enough to make that happen.
Right, and that's kind of where I am, Saul, is
Okay,
just
well,
especially looking at some of the numbers, yeah.
Yeah.
And the sources, right?
Mm.
Well, I mean, going back a bit. I mean, Keith Bergman was very skilled at doing this, and one of the biggest payments that he got was from the Potpourri development construction, which was industrial. So it's not just housing developments. You can get some kind of an impact, whatever.
Impact fees?
Yeah, compensation for impact from any kind of a development. And Keith was great at that, and that may be something that the planning board could take up. Mark Montanari is shameless about demanding money from developers.
Well, that's what you need, is someone who will approach them and or even just like watching out, like if they, like in lieu of payment, I'm not going to put in sidewalks, but I'll give you $20,000. I mean, stuff like that.
If I'm not mistaken, other revenues can be used as matching funds, like Chapter 90 monies and other programs. So it's something definitely worth looking into. The planning board or maybe the town administrator's office would be interested. Maybe not so much the planning board for like Chapter 90 funds, but definitely something to explore.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to hear the select board on Monday and where they're at. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we know that the town administrator's office and the budgeting office is all for the 3%. Of course, they, the monies, but I'm not sure about the select board. I haven't heard anything from any of them.
Well,
so maybe the focus is not on increasing the surcharge to 3%, but to find a pathway to make sure that we are collecting 3%, whether it's through surcharge or blended funds on a consistent basis.
Yep.
Yeah. And we were pretty successful when Keith was town administrator. He was always finding monies left and right for us, so it's doable. So
how would we present that? We've been asked to do it at 3%, but if we say, we're not, when we would rather look at, I like that, pathways to getting, up to 3%.
We could present a couple of different scenarios.
Get different,
Maybe I'm going to throw out that 2% again, but
no, I think that's very valid, and I actually think that saying, these are the different scenarios, these are the different options that we have, but we want to be able to get. The end goal is to get at least 3%. So how can we get that? Yeah.
Right, and it's it's not because necessarily we want more money for different projects. It's if we get to 3%, we get significantly more matching money, and we make better use of the money that we're investing.
So to some degree, I think it's a function of what people are willing to do to get to that 3% in the different scenarios, right? Because if we stay sort of as is and we are looking for some person or group to do the kind of work that Keith used to do, well, that individual or group needs to be identified. And then they need to be committed to making sure that when businesses come to town, that's what's taking place.
Or are there other sources that the town would be willing to put forward? I don't know. Other sources, I'm just saying other sources to meet the 3%.
Yeah, because there are fees and things. Like I know one of them is like hotel tax. we do have a hotel. I can't imagine that we get much tax from it. But I don't know what the rate for occupancy is, but where does that money sit? You know, is that something that could come through?
Have we actually gotten hotel tax money?
We as in the town, or we as in CPA?
A CPA?
I don't know. No, I don't
I mean,
believe
the
so.
hotel has been there for years and the tax has
Right.
been there for years.
Right, but I think that's one of the eligible fees that can flow through CPA.
Right.
So maybe that might be interesting to find out how much that comes to town. You know, is it? I can't even begin to know how much it would be.
So what are the different scenarios we're identifying right now? Yeah, we take a look at it. The 2%.
Yeah,
2%, allowing for up to a 1% blended fund.
right. We could go right straight to 3.
Straight to 3, right?
Status quo.
Yeah.
Keep it 1%, 2% blended. I mean, you can go by percentage, but I mean, like, what the difference between 2.5% and 2%, what, you know.
And then I guess the fourth option is finding other means within the town to fund it. Like we were just saying, is it the hotels or is it business or is it, you know,
Right,
what else?
and those would be other blended sources of blended funds. So if we stay at 1% or keep 2%, we need to figure out where those blended funds are going to come from. And if the hotel tax is substantial enough, that would be a consistent revenue flow. I mean, that.
Unless there's a pandemic.
Yeah.
No more of those.
Well, have to go rent a room. But and I'm trying to think if there's a list out that, I mean, the DOR must have a list of eligible fees that can go through CPA. So,
Yeah, there's quite a few if I remember correctly.
yeah, and I know
Right.
some of them are kind of city-based, but
Yeah, I mean, parking tickets is one of them, but you know, that doesn't happen very often that I know of.
In the future, there'll be more parking.
But how much of it is going to be, how much is going to be metered?
yeah.
Linda, you go.
We can set the parking meter, you only get 2 minutes. That way we can get more CPC.
Yeah, support your CPA. So if we go through and do all the what we've done in the proposal, instead of just saying, I mean, our proposal was 3%. So instead, if we put this other together, you know, these are the scenarios. I don't even know, do we want to commit to one, or do we just want to put it out there until we hear what the select board have to say?
I think it'd be good to present all the options, because if we just come at them with, hey, we're going to do 3% and they shoot it down,
Well,
I mean, I'm for 3% because as Saul indicated, it's exponential, right? I mean, you just get it and it's guaranteed, if you will, that the match will be much greater. So that's part of what I like about it. And
Right.
looking at the numbers, I just really feel like it can accumulate so much more quickly for what our needs are going to be in the future.
exactly. I would suggest that we ask for 3% and we go through a long explanation of what the benefits are and how much extra we'd get and the ability that we have to borrow against that income stream and fund land purchases or housing or whatever on that basis. And then when the selectmen say no, the town won't support it, then we say, well, what can we do with the town to have a lower rate, but to get the 3% somehow?
Right.
And Keith, go back to Keith and say, Keith did it and it worked, and you guys need to step up to that particular line.
Yeah.
So for the presentation, we can just hammer home the 3%, but in our back pocket have these other scenarios that we've thought through and have some backup for in
Right.
case they, and I don't know if FinCom will be there or not, but I think they're kind of at the same point. The, for the discussion we just had, but.
And we could ask, we could say, I mean, I don't know how we could do that, but I mean, ask them to lower the base tax rate a little bit to compensate for the increase in community preservation tax.
So just a quick heads up, we know that from Andrew looking, the select board agenda isn't up yet for Monday, but Tuesday, FinCom is meeting and discuss the CPA percentages on their agenda.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Right, based on. Yeah, okay. That's good to know.
So yeah, I did work up, if we went from 1% to 3%, to get to the same total town revenue, not including the extra matching funds, you would reduce the base residential tax rate by, I think, 25 cents. So it's $16.25 per thousand now. You would drop it roughly to 16.
So is that page 14 of your presentation or somewhere else?
That may not be in the, so it's not my presentation.
I'm sorry.
I just put together the spreadsheet slide, but
Yeah, that you just said is not in the presentation.
It's in the email.
that is not in the presentation.
That was just a suggestion, but do we have that in our, hey, something else that we could do is to.
Is that what this is? That's an email.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't think he has that calculation. I think he just mentions in there about reducing the base.
Okay. I think that should be fairly prominent in terms of what should be discussed on Monday. And I have to apologize to everybody. I'm actually out of town on Monday. And so I can't, I know. No.
So do we want to bring that up or do we want to wait until we're talking about the different scenarios?
Well, I think again, going back, I put it in that comments that, to me, there's debate as to whether or not we want to be collecting more revenue or not. But, the prime motivation for me is the more efficient investment from the second and third round matches. So if we decide that we have projects that we want to do that can be funded through CPA, and we don't want to increase the total revenue collection in town, then the option of increasing the surcharge and decreasing the base rate makes sense. And I think that's not necessarily our call to make. But it's an option available to the select board and the finance committee.
So do we want to just mention that as part of, what?
I think it's worth mentioning mostly to emphasize that, we're not necessarily looking to increase the total revenue.
Yeah.
Right.
That is not the goal. The goal is to increase the matching from the state and continue to use it for projects that we would be doing anyway.
Right. So we're just kind of reallocating the same money just so it will flow through CPA and get the state match.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay.
So would you think if that scenario would be accepted, CPA would be, maybe responsible is not the right word, but more projects would be coming through CPA.
Right.
Yeah, I think right.
Considered capital items if it's CPA eligible, would flow through CPA. Yeah, probably right. But I think we've seen that with recreation. I mean, the recreation, you know, like the Long Lake improvements, tennis courts, those are the kinds of things that would have gone to the budget. But now they would just come through
Right.
CPA.
So we're playing with the same pot of money, or the town is playing with the same pot of
Right.
money. It's just a function of where it's allocated, so that if it flows through us, then we get more, we get that triple, or we get the matching.
We get the match.
Right.
Right.
So we end up with more money in the end, as long as, and then I think you know, if we get to the point in the future where we've accumulated so much money, and we don't have projects designated, or we don't have clear paths, then we could cut back and not spend, or not, you know,
Not collect.
continue to collect for bigger reserves, but
Lower the tax rate on the citizens.
yeah.
Okay. All right, I like those ideas. So I will, I'll try to put that in the slide and I'll send those out. Maybe I'll try to do that tomorrow so we can get it done early. And then I'll just keep on the side, and not as an actual slide, the different scenarios, just so we have them to talk in case, you know, if all the select boards say, no, we're not doing that, at least we can say, well, we have some other scenarios. Is that how we want to do it?
Yeah, and so I was just looking at the numbers again. I think the 1%, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, if I did the math wrong, but it looked like the total was about 750 revenue. Is that right?
Thought it was like 360 for the 1%. Is that what you asked?
Yeah, and that was, so I was just trying to figure out the you know, if we're saying we're going to, you know, to Andrew's idea of 2% or 2.5%, what is that dollar figure that we're asking whoever it is, the town administrator or the planning board, or whoever it is, to make up?
Well, it's $1 million or $1.5 million,
rough numbers,
something like that. Which
So-
that's going to be a tough argument to take that out of the school or the police or, you know, the other fixed numbers.
Well, yeah, and I think when you put those numbers out there, it's also tough to see that you're going to get that out of developers on a regular basis
Right.
for the blended side of it. So
Right now, 1% equals approximately 360,000.
Yeah, I think it's what Alicia had. That's what it was last year. I think she said it was something like 365 or 3 something like that.
So to go to 3%, we're looking to raise another $750,000.
Yeah. And then we'd only have to get 361 in blended funds, but every house that gets built, I mean, at least the complex that town's probably, is that all rental? That's not, yeah, so it's not really individual property taxes, but every development that goes up, we get, the property tax goes up. So then the percentage, doesn't that make it like we still have to, we get more and more, we'd have to, because the houses are all the big ones. It's not.
Yeah.
There is a positive gain. I'll just say that. And, I don't have those figures readily available, but yes, there will be a positive gain for the town.
Well, I mean, what Saul came up with, like the assessed value for that house, like 1.5 million assessed value. The 1% surcharge is only $221. So it's not like it's huge amounts of money, even with new housing. I don't know where I was going with that, but
I agree.
yeah. I had a really brilliant thought, but I can't remember when you were tired. I can't remember.
So with that $1.5 million house, you said it was 220.
$221 is the CPA surcharge.
So would you be bumping it up to 663?
Yeah. So halfway would be 442. that's the CPA portion of it only.
Keeping in mind that the total tax bill for that house before the surcharge is almost $24,000.
Yikes.
So, 400 or 200 or 600 on a $24,000 tax bill is, really, I mean, it's almost a rounding error.
Yeah. And I mean, if the exemptions are fairly, like for the older, the seniors, if we're worried about the seniors, the exemptions are fairly robust. I mean, if you're over 60, the household income is pretty high. You can, so there is a mechanism for you to, it's kind of like an opt-out almost. You have to fill out an application, but there is that.
I mean, that would be great. I just don't know how widely known it would be to take advantage of it. Definitely some PR.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we have it as one of the exemptions, but I don't know if people know that. People don't know a lot about CPA in some ways.
We could use our admin dollars to promote it.
We should promote. We should.
If there's not quite across the board, but there's $100,000 exemption built in.
Built in, yes. Yeah.
Could we perhaps bump that up a little bit for this new? I'm just thinking of the people that, they're going to get that tax bill and every couple $100, matters. You know what I mean? I just don't want to.
I think the income is based on, it's a formula. And I think the exemption, there's only 100,000 exemption.
Really?
I think that's up to the town.
Is it?
No, I think there's a max in the.
Is there?
Yeah.
I thought I saw 150 as an exemption in some of the towns, but maybe I'm wrong.
It's worth a look. But I thought when I read through the stuff, we were limited to the 100,000.
Yeah, that's the only thing that anyone has, 100,000 residential or commercial. Okay.
So, so you're just taking a look at this, if I'm looking at this correctly. So the average home at that 605 assessed value, currently at 1%, it's $82. The average is $247. So the difference between that is $165. So effectively, you're talking about 50 cents a day on average.
Or $40 a quarter.
Yeah. So putting it into those kind of terms of, this is how much it means to the average household's pocketbook, because that again is average. Then you look at the 25th percentile, a home assessed value of $338,000. That's $39 at 1%, $116 at 3%. So that difference is $77. And so that's like.
It's much easier to swallow than going from 300 to 600 for most people.
Yeah. So that's just another way of looking at it to say, is the open space and housing and everything else that CPC has to offer worth it for another, X cents a day.
I hope we have a lot of time allocated. I was just like, we can talk about this all night. It's crazy, all the different. Okay, that's a good way to say it when we get to this slide.
And I think this is kind of the point about the misunderstanding of where the CPA or where the surcharge is applied. The 1% surcharge is not in addition to the in theory 2.5% increase in taxes, but our tax rate is not 2.5%. It's 1.6 and change, at least for residential. And it's not applied directly on top of that. It's a percentage of that.
with that. Yeah, I don't know if
So-
anyone watched George Sanders, what do you call it, Talking with George or something? He was just taking the percentages and adding them up. So he was saying you have the 2%. And so if you add 3%, your taxes are going to go up by 5%.
Oh,
So mathematically, that's really not, that's what Saul has in the slide, is it's actually, it goes up
0.03%.
Because you don't just add them, you have to do the percentages. So it's just a little myth, I understand how he was going at it, but it's just a math problem. Okay, I'm gonna work on this. I'll sleep on it and come up with something like either tomorrow or Friday to get to you guys before it gets too late. And please, anything that you want to write out or do anything is fine. Come to the select board meeting, and I'm sorry you won't be there.
Me too.
I believe that I hope Ryan goes to it because he's the FinCom rep, but I have a feeling they'll probably be there, especially seeing their agenda. And we'll see. I mean, all we can do is put it out there, and then hopefully maybe some adjustments come in. Who knows?
Okay.
It would be too bad to throw away the 30% return we get on the 30 plus.
Mhm. Yes, it would.
Okay. Any last thoughts?
The only other thing would be, after the select board meeting, what's sort of the next step? Do we have another meeting, or should we plan for another
We
meeting?
should plan for another meeting. We will have to have one anyways.
over the windows, we have to vote that.
Yeah, and so we would typically have a meeting on March 15th. That's the third Wednesday. And I believe they told us that would be in time for the warrant.
For some reason, the 14th is like sticking in my mind.
Oh, that's right, because it was like right around there.
You want to play it safe and maybe do March 8th? Oh, wait, no,
That's
that's,
yours.
oh,
Your
yeah. no, that's-
Commission meeting
And the train station is having the big MBTA meeting on the 8th.
on the 8th.
Yeah.
Okay, so the 8th,
The planning board has a meeting on the 9th,
9th.
but that leaves March 7th or March 13th.
So I think March 7th is actually a Concom meeting, if I'm remembering correctly. March 6th, that Monday.
Okay, I will be out of town on that Monday. But I'm only one, we seem to got no quorum.
If we have a hybrid, you could call it, if you wanted.
Uh,
Like Saul.
True.
There's really not many more days left. Monday, the 13th. Probably a select board meeting, right? If the warrant's closing on Tuesday, the 14th.
Probably, yeah.
Tuesday, the 14th? Can we, no, it's not.
Well, there's probably not wouldn't be the end of the world to have it overlapping the select board meeting, right? We don't have, unless there's a.
Unless they're gonna talk about it, yeah.
Right.
I wonder if we could just submit everything as placeholders and then vote on that Wednesday. I could ask Ryan about that
Yeah, that'd be
and see
great.
if that would be all right.
We're just going to offer up if Monday, the 13th works for folks, what if we met earlier, like at 5 o'clock? So then if there was a select board meeting, we could attend that later.
Yeah, because we probably wouldn't have that much. Even what they start at 6 now, don't they?
Usually, yeah. I think they typically start at 6:30, but they tend to have executive session meetings beforehand. So 6:30.
But if there was something, if we were on the agenda, we could ask to be, a little later so they can do some things first, and then we can have our meeting, and then we can join them.
We could do that. So do we want to, would we rather meet on Wednesday if it's okay, and then the second one be on March 13th? Or just meet on the 13th?
So
I think if the warrant closes on the 14th, it makes sense to have a meeting before that.
Okay. So March
Whether
13th, do we want to
And
do it
then maybe
earlier? Do we want to do 7 and then ask them if we're on it to push us off to the end? I don't know what people's work schedules are.
I could do a meeting probably around like 6.
Yeah, you can do 6.
Okay, so want to plan on Monday, March 13th at 6.
Okay.
Okay.
And I guess the other thought is that we should probably have at least somebody at the FinCom meeting on Tuesday if we're on the agenda there.
Right, I can plan to be there. Should we post a meeting just in case people want to come? It doesn't hurt. Yeah.
Just in
Okay.
case. Better to not violate the open meeting law when it's possible. Yeah.
I kind of hope I haven't heard. It would be nice for them to tell us what they're gonna, maybe they don't know what they're gonna talk about, maybe because of follow-up from the select board meeting. But yeah, you're right. I'll do that. I'll just post a meeting just to be on the safe side. It'll also be a good reminder for us to. Okay. Phew. Any last thoughts?
Yeah, Carolyn, I have a question. Do I have to have a application for eligibility for the housing authority before the spring town meeting?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't think you need eligibility because we've done it again and again, but I think I feel like there should be a project for the.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to get money, I should do an application for funding.
Yeah, and I mean, it's basically what you've done before. It's nice to have that paperwork.
Yeah.
You know, at least you just put it on the warrant and it, you know, having it go to the housing authority, but I feel like that kind of bypassed our committee.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay, and that's the spring town meeting, so I should get that in at our next meeting.
Yeah, March 13th. Yeah, and
okay.
I wouldn't do an eligibility. I would just do the funding application. And then if we could have the annual report at the same time, it would be good.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do about that.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
good meeting.
No, I thank you all for hanging in there. It was, appreciate the people from afar calling in.
Hope to cobble together all those votes.
Yeah. All right. Make a motion to adjourn.
I moved.
So moved.
There you go.
Second.
All in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Then,
Let's hope there isn't a ton of snow already.
oh, I know, we're supposed to have snow here, we'll see. All right, thanks. I'm going to close the meeting so we stop recording. I appreciate it all. Thanks, but email me with anything.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.